Live.
Welcome back to Media Week. Our co-host, James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here with us for all the latest news in the media space this week. And of course, James, that news about Rebecca Brooks returning to News Corp.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Going back to the job she had from 2009 through to 2011. She left under a real cloud, of course. She's been cleared, and Rupert Murdoch's bringing her back to do the job. I think she was doing a pretty good job before she left. So pick up where she left off. Mike Darcy was the sort of interim CEO, if you like. He seemed to do a pretty good job too. Got the Times and the Sunday Times report its first profit in close to a decade, I think it was. So it's been a long project. Like Rupert Murdoch really liked those papers, invested in them. A little bit like the Australian here, hard to make a profit out of them. But they've turned the corner, done some great work with their digital audiences. The paywall they have up seems to be working, you know, but on the other hand, they've introduced a paywall like the Sun over there, which people seem hasn't really worked as they'd hoped. They've lost some ground in that sort of tabloid end of the newspaper market. The Daily Mail has moved ahead, got a bit of a margin on them. Of course, there's no paywalls at the Daily Mail for their audiences, and they've appointed a new editor at the Sun who's been a former Daily Mail editor, so it'll be interesting to see what Rebecca does with the strategy there.
Has there been much of a reaction to the announcement that she's returning?
No, I think it was expected. It was definitely leaked late last week that she was definitely going back, and that was confirmed just overnight. So yeah, I think she was expected back, certainly in the company somewhere, if not back to her old job.
All right, let's talk some other media moves here at home. Courtney Gibson, she's departing the Nine Network.
Yep, going to Screen New South Wales, which is sort of a smaller funding body to the production sector.
She's heading it up, right?
Yeah, it's going to be chief executive. Yeah, and their job is to try and keep film production in New South Wales, keep that sector quite vibrant. Not losing it offshore or to other states. So just to stake the case for New South Wales, she'll do a good job there. She's been a good production executive for Channel 9 in the years she's been working there.
And we were talking radio ratings last week. Smooth FM doing pretty well, and the newsreader from there actually celebrating 40 years on Australian radio.
Yeah, look, Steve Blander, amazing. Look, he's won a swag of awards. He picked up an ACRA award virtually every year he's been in radio for the best newsreader. Long time association with 2UE, which ended earlier this year, sadly. But Smooth FM have picked him up, and he's been. I think he's been reading daytime news, he's been filling in afternoons. So yeah, it's great that he's still in the business and celebrating his time at his new home.
Yeah, all right. And also some executive moves at Network 10 and UM.
Yeah, look, Lou Barrett, who's been the sales chief at 10 for a long time, we weren't sure what she was going to do. She wasn't moving across with a lot of the 10 staff to MCN. She's going to stay on a new role there, Executive General Manager in Sydney, a position that they haven't had before. Probably not unlike what Russell Howcroft does down in Melbourne for Network 10, but Lou's got a great connection with the advertisers, and she'll be keeping an eye over a lot of the corporate sponsorships, I would imagine, the big ticket deals, and liaising with MCN.
Some sad news this week as well, with sales executive Peter Murphy suddenly passing away. The tributes have been coming in for him.
Yeah, look, he had a lot of friends. About 40 years he'd been in the media, currently working, or was working until this week, with Pacific Magazines, looking after their South Australia and WA clients, working out of the offices of Seven in Adelaide and Perth. He was in Perth this week working. He just didn't turn up for work one day. They worried about him, and gee whiz, they found that he'd had I think it was a massive heart attack. So, he'd had some history of health challenges in the past. But yeah, much loved guy, and he'll be sadly missed by the people he worked with and the clients he looked after.
Yeah, he will be missed indeed. All right, moving on to Nine, of course, because there's talk about former Nine Sports executive and long-time Rupert Murdoch colleague as well, David Hill. What's he going to do with the Oscars? Yeah,
look, he's going to co-produce Ingrid, so it's a massive role, because there's always a lot of interest, lots of talk over the Oscars every year. Everybody loves criticising it or loving the awards. Who's going to host it? If the host's good or host bad, it often falls back on the producer. So they're always looking for a good producer.
How many producers do they have approximately, do you think?
This year, I think, he'd have a massive team working under him, but there's going to be 2 producers this year. David Hill's one of them. Look, he walked away from News Corp earlier this year, about June, I think he split, said he was going to open his own own production consultancy called Hilly, and this is the first big piece of business he's picked up, I guess, as that. So it'd be great to be a little added interest into the awards next year, that's for sure.
Pretty good first gig.
Yeah, I think they're coming up in February. Certainly, I think they're shown on 9 for the 9 show them live on a Monday morning here, go out Sunday night in the US.
All right, we'll watch for that one and see how he does.
Sure.
Now, Win Corporation, big news this week. We were just obviously talking with Andrew Maiden about those media regulations, but Win's quit Free TV Australia over a feud.
Yeah, look, those divisions over the, should there be a reform of the media laws or should we just leave them in the way they are? Look, the divisions run very deep in that free-to-air sector.
John Hartigan's been very vocal about it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Look, and here, Prime, him and Seven have really fallen out over this.
Yeah.
There's a big divide there, and Win, of course, too. Look, they're so annoyed by it. They don't think they should be in the organisation that represents all the free-to-air broadcasters anymore because they don't see what's in it for them. They're not getting a support on. They don't think on this matter from Free TV.
All right, I want to move on to some of the streaming because obviously streaming video on demand a big topic, but Presto launching a big new marketing campaign.
Yeah, look, Naomi Watts is going to be in this, so yeah, I think it goes out Thursday this week, so which is a pretty big deal, and we got anything of that to show there, but
hopefully there it is.
Yeah. So it's great to see them really. They've been a little bit slow at coming to market with all this stuff, I guess. The entertainment part of the business is a partnership between Foxtel and Seven. Foxtel just run the movie side of the business, so it's great to see them getting on the front foot. We've been reading a lot about Stan, a lot about Netflix, so it's good to see Presto getting some space in this. They've had some great content too.
Yeah, and it comes as they obviously announced the introduction of HD Plus, and it will support AirPlay, and also there's a new tablet app as well. Sure,
yeah, look, they're upgrading that. There's big demand for that sort of stuff. They're a little bit late to the market, perhaps on HD, so it's great to see that. I think they've got over 2,000 hours up there, so there's some really good content there, and they really give people a decision to make where they go. Should they go with Netflix? Should they stay with Netflix? Is Stan a good place for them to be? And Presto is really now a competitor.
Now, before we get into the TV ratings for, I think it's week 35, I want to talk a bit about social media and how it impacts the broadcasters and plays into their whole strategy, because obviously The Bachelor is one which gets a lot of hashtags during the screening.
Absolutely.
How much is it playing into broadcasters and what
we're really seeing, because we've seen Twitter introduce Twitter TV ratings this year to really get some sort of grip on how important this is. And look, I must admit, I was a little bit of a sceptic early on. I thought it was important, but it's now becoming obvious how really important it is to get out there and grab your space in social media.
And you see it with things like the VMAs as well.
Absolutely. The VMAs this weekend became the most tweeted TV event ever, I think, in the world. Miley Cyrus.
Nothing like Miley Cyrus to get a few hashtags going.
She's probably got a job for life as host of the event, because I think generally was thought she went down pretty well. And here, The Bachelor just doing fantastic business. They went really close to 1 million viewers last night, the biggest regular episode ever. And as you say, they've been all over social media. The mainstream media pick all that stuff up too. So they start writing about the show because they think their audience is interested.
Yeah, you see a new article almost every day.
Yeah, and you're getting a real big payback in the audiences, and the advertisers love all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that, I think, we've got The Bachelorette to come. So 10's really, if they haven't monetised that already, they'll be topping that up. It's giving MCN great talking points to take out to the clients as the new rep of 10.
They're plugging those Bachelorette promos.
And people will be talking to 10 already about 2016, I'm sure, because they want to get a piece of the action.
All right, well, speaking of television, let's take a look at the ratings now. For week 35, kicking it off with free-to-air ratings. And actually, the news getting in there quite a bit, but The Voice coming in number 3. It sort of dropped a couple of spots. Yeah, look, it's getting hard to find non-news programs at the top of the chart, isn't it? But The Voice has done very well hanging up there. This isn't the grand final episode. We'll see that in next week's chart, but that was the penultimate episode. All right, turning the page to the rest of the top 10 there. That Pets Making You Laugh still getting in there. Yeah. You've been really liking there.
It's Pets and The Voice, the only two non-news shows in that top 10. Look, this is doing really, there was a bit of a silver lining for Seven when Restaurant Revolution didn't work. They tried the Pets videos, and guess what? They took off.
Wow, okay, subscription television ratings now for week 35. Here's the sport. Of course, no surprises, NRL and AFL, but let's turn the page to the non-sport ones as well. Hunger Games movie, Family Guy.
A bit of trivia, there are only 5 different shows in the top 50 that were non-sport.
Right.
But The Simpsons was in there a lot, though. I think there was 11 separate listings for The Simpsons. So
people still popular after all this time.
People still love their animation, absolutely.
All right, let's talk some shows, because the President of the United States has signed up to a reality show.
Yeah, look, it's going to work with Bear Grylls. That's a big program he makes for NBC. He has a lot of shows. He's got a couple of shows going. He's got The Island on air at the moment on SBS on Monday nights, and there's a men's version and a women's version. That rates quite well for SBS, but he's got the Barack Obama's going to be. I think it's actually just a one-off. He's not going to be in the series, if you read the release carefully.
He's just trekking through the Alaskan wilderness.
Yeah, but still, it's a pretty good get, isn't it? And you've got to imagine the audience for that's going to be massive.
All right, let's talk Nine as well, because they've released the details of partners and sponsors for the block. There's one sponsor that's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's Mitre 10. Look, they've got a long association with the block, and that obviously works for all these people. So I think most of the sponsors they've got back this year are returning. So it's season 11 of the block. And it's really going to push Nine all the way through to the end of survey this year.
And just finally as well, I know you've been talking with David Gingell from Nine. He's got some programming ideas for late night. We've been hearing about this one.
Yeah, look, panel shows. He really thinks there's a market for panel shows, and I'm with him on this. I think it'll do well, but TV often seem to give up the game about 9:30 at night. There's nothing really compelling on.
Carl Stefanovic hosting, that's what we're hearing.
That's one of them, yeah. And Mark Latham's going to be on the pilot they're doing, but there's some real opportunity, I think, for TV to pick up some decent audiences late night.
All right, we'll see how we go with that one. James Manning, editor and publisher of Mediaweek. Always good to have you co-hosting, of course.
Thanks, Ingrid.
That is all we have time for on today's program. From the team here, thanks for your company.